Imagine being just so completely terrified of the modern world that the mere mention of Carmen Miranda gives you, like, severe gastrointestinal distress.
Oh, yeah, it's a very specific kind of fear.
Right. Or, treating a casual stroll through a locked private park like it's some sort of extreme sport.
Absolutely.
And considering a bowl of pistachio ice cream to be this act of wild, unhinged rebellion.
Which is just hilarious to think about today.
It really is. So today we are exploring a woman who treats the 20th century not just as, like, a mild annoyance, but as an infectious disease, one that requires constant aggressive quarantine.
A total shutdown.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So welcome to episode 71 of Porter-Pedia, our ongoing exploration of the fascinating world, the brilliant work, and the incredibly colorful life of the legendary Cole Porter.
So glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, and if you've been on this journey with us, you know we've already dissected some of Porter's most iconic list songs.
We really have covered a lot of ground.
We have. I mean, we unpacked the high society agriculture of farming. We scaled the heights of cultural superlatives in You're the Top. We analyzed the romantic cataloging in They Couldn't Compare to You. And of course, we navigated the shifting moral landscape of Anything Goes.
All absolute classics.
Definitely. I highly encourage you to check those past explorations out if you haven't already.
They really serve as a crucial foundation, for understanding how Porter utilized the list song format.
Oh, for sure.
Because he didn't just use it as a rhythmic novelty. He weaponized it as a razor-sharp tool for cultural commentary. He was really mapping out the anxieties and aspirations of his era.
Weaponized is the perfect word for it. And today, we are setting our sights on the references dropped in a true deep-cut list song.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
It's the brilliant and highly satirical Dainty, Quainty Me, which was written for the 1944 Billy Rose Review called Seven Lively Arts.
A very specific moment in time.
Right. But before we get into the architecture of this woman's psychological fortress, a quick note for those of you who love this level of cultural archaeology.
Which, if you are listening to episode 71, you definitely do.
Exactly. You absolutely must buy the book Porter-Pedia. It is an absolute necessity for your shelf.
It really is. I mean, the detail in there is incredible.
It meticulously decodes over 2,600 references that Porter dropped throughout his catalog. It's staggering. There is a link to grab a copy right down in the description.
I highly recommend checking that out.
And also in the description, you will find a link to a remarkable performance of Dainty, Quainty Me. It includes the full lyrics, too.
You really, really have to hear it.
Yes, you must hear it. You have to hear the tempo and the attitude of the performance to fully grasp this character we are analyzing today. It changes everything.
It really does. And to guide our exploration today, our primary source is a historical article that deeply analyzes Porter's comic war against modernity in this specific song.
Which is such a great read.
It is. And we're supplementing that with the original lyrics and a really comprehensive reference list to decode the dizzying array of names and places she mentions.
Yeah, we won't be throwing out, like, specific page or chapter numbers from the article, but we are going to synthesize the incredible story these documents tell.
So where do we start with this character?
Okay, let's unpack this premise right away, because it completely subverts everything we expect from a Cole Porter list song.
It does. It's a total flip.
Usually he is celebrating the absolute bleeding edge of modern celebrity, right?
Right.
He drops the names of the hottest stars, the newest inventions, the most current slang. He just revels in the now.
But Dainty, Quainty Me flips that dynamic entirely.
And completely upside down. The character driving the song proudly, aggressively, and sometimes violently rejects nearly everything modern.
She really does. She's
Yeah.
basically barricading herself behind antiques and old newspapers.
Exactly. I mean, what is the overarching theme here?
Well, the overarching theme is that this is not merely a funny song about a cranky woman. It is a highly sophisticated cultural portrait.
Okay.
Porter is taking the very formula that made him famous, the rapid-fire cataloging of contemporary culture, and he's turning it inside out.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah, he creates a heroine whose entire identity is defined by negative space. She is actively, deliberately sheltering herself from the 20th century.
Okay, so I understand the instinct to seek peace and quiet, especially in 1944.
Oh, of course. 1944 was incredibly chaotic.
But I have to push back a little on her specific method. It feels like she is building a bomb shelter, but instead of reinforcing it with concrete and stocking it with canned beans, she's stocking it with Dresden china and old teacups.
Right. It's an aesthetic bunker.
Yeah. So is this just pure, unfiltered upper-class snobbery, or is this an actual psychological survival mechanism for a rapidly changing world?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it operates as both. But the psychological survival mechanism is really the engine driving the snobbery.
Makes sense of that for me.
To understand why her rejection is so absolute, you have to consider the landscape of 1944. It wasn't just a noisy year. It was a year of profound existential destabilization.
Right. World War II is at its peak.
Exactly. Globally, the conflict is raging. The Allied forces are landing in Normandy.
Yeah.
But domestically, in the United States, there is this fascinating, jarring paradox.
Which is what?
While the country is immersed in immense wartime sacrifice, American mass culture is simultaneously exploding into a homogenized national phenomenon.
Oh, right. The media landscape is suddenly inescapable.
Yes, completely everywhere.
You have radio personalities beaming directly into millions of living rooms simultaneously. They're creating the very first synchronized national audiences.
It was revolutionary.
And Hollywood stars are dominating the public imagination with a kind of ubiquitous glamour that had just never existed before.
Right, the cultural power was shifting. It was moving away from the localized, quiet drawing rooms of the elite.
And moving into the loud, democratized spaces of the movie palace and the radio dial.
Precisely. It was a world increasingly driven by mass culture, celebrity, and instantaneous communication.
Which would be terrifying if you were used to quiet exclusivity.
Exactly. And then we must layer in Cole Porter's personal context, which provides a striking contrast to the character he created here.
Tell me about that.
Well, by 1944, Porter is living with severe chronic pain following his devastating 1937 riding accident.
Right, the horse riding accident that crushed his legs.
Yes, he is enduring endless surgeries. Yet, despite immense physical trauma, his artistic resilience is staggering. He remains engaged.
He never really stopped working, did he?
No, he continued shaping Broadway with hits like Panama Hattie and Something for the Boys.
That contrast is just wild. Porter, who is in actual unrelenting agony, stays deeply engaged with the chaotic world and continues to define its culture.
He embraces it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the character he invents is physically perfectly healthy, but she decides the modern world is simply too crass to bear, so she checks out entirely.
Her fragility is completely manufactured.
And because she was written for Seven Lively Arts, which was a review rather than a narrative book musical, she didn't need to undergo any character growth, right?
Exactly. A review is episodic. It's just sketches, dances, and musical numbers.
So there's no plot she has to push forward.
Right. This allowed Porter to freeze her in amber. Her entire appeal to the 1944 audience rested on instant recognition.
Because they knew people exactly like her.
Yes. They encountered this rapidly expanding mass media every single day. So when a heroine steps on stage and reacts to popular culture as if it were a physical assault, the audience roared.
Oh, I bet. Everyone had that wealthy aunt or social acquaintance who firmly believed civilization peaked around 1890.
Yes, the one who viewed every modern convenience as evidence of moral decay.
Absolutely. But before we look at the specific modern terrors she shoots down from her ivory tower, we need to examine who this woman actually is.
We need to look at how she micromanages her highly controlled daily life.
Yeah. Porter establishes her identity immediately in the verse. She describes herself as a fragile, precocious little elf.
Which is an interesting way to describe oneself.
Right, but then she immediately follows that up by stating she is currently 62 and will soon be 63.
That comic dissonance is central to her pathology. She views herself permanently through the lens of a childhood nickname, Dainty, Quainty Me.
Given to her by her nanny.
Exactly. Back when her family still possessed what she calls a family tree.
Ah, okay. That phrase is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is.
Yeah.
It implies a lineage and a social standing that she feels the modern, meritocratic, celebrity-driven era has erased.
So by clinging to the nickname, she is clinging to a time when her family's status was unquestioned.
Exactly. Her core philosophy is right there in the refrain. She claims she is from care completely free by merely ignoring the world of today.
And the lengths she goes to achieve this ignorance are just staggering. I mean, she proudly declares she refuses to even own a telephone.
Which is huge.
Now, to a modern listener, not having a phone might sound like a trendy digital detox, you know?
Sure, people do that all the time now.
But in 1944, the telephone was the ultimate symbol of modern intrusion.
It represented an uncontrollable breach of the home's perimeter. A ringing telephone demands immediate attention.
Right, it doesn't wait politely.
No. and it allows the outside world, regardless of class or standing, to pierce the sanctuary of the domestic space without prior written permission.
Wow. Okay, so by refusing to own one, she severs the primary artery of modern communication.
She retains absolute control over who has access to her reality.
And she exerts that same absolute control over her daily routine. Porter details this in these massive rapid-fire patter sections.
The patter sections are amazing. Very reminiscent of Gilbert and Sullivan.
Wow.
Uniquely Porter.
Yeah, the rhythmic acceleration mimics the frantic energy it takes to maintain her isolation.
So true.
Let's look at her morning. First, a bath, and she explicitly clarifies, not a shower.
Because a shower is utilitarian. It's about efficiency and getting to work. A bath is about leisure and stasis.
Right, taking her time. Then she puts on dear Grandpapa's dressing gown.
She is literally cloaking herself in the garments of a dead patriarch.
Exactly. And her breakfast further reinforces this fake frailty. She consumes a single coddled egg and a cup of very weak jasmine tea.
Very weak, too.
Very weak. Everything has to be diluted and entirely unstimulating.
She can't handle anything strong.
No. After breakfast, she dusts her jades, which are, ancient, delicate, static artifacts, and she writes a letter to the Times.
It's a very proper morning.
Very. Then she embarks on what she considers a major physical exertion, a long walk in Gramercy Park.
The choice of Gramercy Park is a brilliant sociological marker by Porter.
Because it's not just any park.
Right. Gramercy Park is a small, incredibly exclusive park in Manhattan, surrounded by elegant 19th century townhouses.
I've walked past it. It's beautiful.
But its defining feature is that it is strictly private. You must possess a physical key granted only to local residents to enter.
So it's not like strolling through Central Park where you might have to, heaven forbid, share a bench with the general public.
Absolutely not.
Gramercy Park is a locked, gated fortress of old New York privilege. The iron gates literally keep the 20th century out.
And after this highly secure walk, she lunches every single day at Schraff's.
Okay, wait. Schraff's was a massive chain of restaurants and ice cream parlors, right?
It was, heavily favored by the respectable middle and upper middle classes, particularly women.
But if she is so elite, why is she eating at a chain restaurant? Why not a high-end French bistro or a private club for lunch?
Because Schraff's offered something far more valuable to her than culinary innovation. It offered absolute, unyielding predictability.
Ah, safety.
Exactly. Schraff's was safe. It was respectable. The hostess knew your name. The environment was muted. And there were zero surprises on the menu.
And her order proves that. She asks for chicken broth, a green salad, and a Triscuit.
A Triscuit.
A Triscuit. I mean, a square whole wheat cracker invented in 1902. It is the most utilitarian, excitement-free food imaginable.
But then she has her moment of sheer madness.
Yes. She says she orders pistachio ice cream when I dare risk it.
When I dare risk it. That line perfectly encapsulates her obsession with moderation. The flavor pistachio is her absolute limit of exoticism.
She treats pistachio ice cream like skydiving.
It really is her version of an extreme sport.
It's hilarious. She curates her own museum exhibit where she is both the curator and the primary artifact. But isn't there something strangely admirable about her utter commitment to the bit?
There really is.
Yeah.
Porter's genius here is his restraint. He avoids cruelty, he doesn't hate this character, and he ensures the audience doesn't either.
She's just so specific.
Yes. Her identity, while entirely negative, constructed strictly by what she shuns, is completely coherent. She is absurd, but she possesses an ironclad internal logic.
An ironclad logic that requires an equally ironclad environment.
Definitely. Moving from her daily routine to her immediate environment, we see how she weaponizes interior design and art against the 20th century.
Yeah, she sets incredibly strict conditions for her social life. She sings, I never accept an invitation to dinner unless I can dine in a room that has pastel shades.
And then she launches into a staggering catalog of luxury decorative styles.
Right. She demands Adam furniture, Queen Anne silver, Dresden china, Georgian candlesticks, and the finest of damask napery.
Let's decode that dining room, because together, these items create a vision of perfect, untouchable, historical gentility.
Okay, take me through it. Adam furniture.
Adam furniture refers to a late 18th century English neoclassical style. It is formal, symmetrical, and deeply historic.
And the Queen Anne silver.
Queen Anne silver from the early 1700s is renowned for its graceful curves and absolute lack of ornamentation.
So no modern, jagged Art Deco edges allowed.
None whatsoever. And Dresden china is German porcelain famous for its incredibly intricate, delicate floral patterns that require immense care.
Right, highly fragile.
Georgian candlesticks represent old-world craftsmanship, and damask napery refers to fine, lustrous, reversible table linens, highly prized in formal dining.
It sounds like a dining room where you aren't actually allowed to pull out a chair, let alone eat a meal.
It's completely rigid.
The joke is that the historical pedigree of the room matters exponentially more to her than the food, the conversation, or the people she's dining with. The environment must be frozen in time.
And she highlights this necessity by contrasting it with her ultimate aesthetic enemy. She declares, "I shun everything Dorothy Drapery."
Now, I understand her hating loud movie stars or sensationalist tabloids, but why Dorothy Draper? Draper is just an interior designer.
Oh, she was much more than that.
Why does a bright floral curtain or a bold rug feel like an existential threat to this woman? Am I missing something about interior decorating in the 40s?
Consider what Dorothy Draper represented. She wasn't just a decorator. She was the architect of the modern American commercial aesthetic.
Okay.
Draper popularized a style that was vibrant, bold, and unapologetically modern. She utilized stark, black and white checkered floors, massive, exaggerated cabbage rose chintz prints, and aggressive contrasting colors.
So a lot of clashing with tradition.
Yes, she called it modern Baroque.
So she was loud and she took up space.
Exactly. And more importantly, Draper democratized this style. She designed massive public spaces, like hotel lobbies, restaurants, and department stores.
She was commercializing luxury.
Yes. For our heroine, Draper's aesthetic is terrifying because it disrupts the quiet, muted codes of old money.
Oh, I see.
Porter takes this titan of modern commercial design and brilliantly turns her surname into a dismissive adjective, drapery, rhyming it with napery, to just swat her away like a nuisance.
That is fantastic wordplay. And she doesn't stop at the furniture, she polices the very walls of the dining room.
The art debate in this song is incredible.
She sets up a debate between Botticelli and the entire modern art movement. She accepts Botticelli, who represents classical, accepted, religiously sanctioned Renaissance beauty.
Very safe.
Right. But then she lists Picasso, Van Gogh, Cézanne, Renoir, Matisse, Manet, and Monet.
She groups together the defining masters of Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and Cubism.
And while those artists are the bedrock of museum collections today in the 1940s, they still represented a relatively recent and profound disruption.
There was still tangible cultural resistance to their work among conservative high society.
Here's where it gets really interesting. She dismisses this massive, paradigm-shifting revolution in art by saying their work is so much bologna.
Bologna?
She literally rhymes Monet with bologna. It is breathtakingly dismissive. It's like someone today looking at the moon landing and calling it a cheap parlor trick. She's completely erasing a revolution in art.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals how inherited refinement operates as a psychological bulwark.
How so?
To her, a Picasso isn't just an unappealing painting. It represents a fundamental breakdown of societal order.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Cubism fractures perspective, just as the modern world was fracturing her social hierarchy. If perspective is subjective, then perhaps her status is subjective too. She cannot allow that thought into the dining room.
Wow. That fear of the untamed is so deep that even nature threatens her.
Nature is completely curated.
She lists her acceptable flowers. Sweetheart roses, white violets, petunias, forget-me-nots, jack-in-the-pulpits, and baby's breath. Tiny, delicate, unassuming flowers.
Pastel flowers.
Yeah. And then she says, as for tiger lilies, they frighten me to death.
The tiger lily is bold, bright orange, highly spotted, and visually aggressive. It is the Dorothy Draper of the botanical world. It refuses to blend into the background.
So she can lock the physical doors to that pastel dining room, and she can micromanage the flower beds. But the sheer volume of 1944's mass culture still seeps through the floorboards.
Unavoidable.
And when that outside noise bleeds in, it doesn't just annoy her. It triggers a literal medical emergency.
Porter moves from aesthetic disagreement to aggressive physiological distress here. The physical toll of mass media on this character is a masterclass in comic escalation.
She starts with the print and radio columnists. She sings, when people talk about those columnists such as Walter Winchell, Ed Sullivan, Westbrook Pegler, Hedda Hopper, Dorothy Thompson, Dorothy Kilgallen, and that frightfully vulgar girl they all call Elsa.
This is a murderer's row of 1940s media influence. These individuals were the architects of public opinion.
And celebrity gossip, right?
Yes. Walter Winchell alone wielded terrifying power. His rapid-fire, telegram-style radio broadcast could literally make or break a politician or celebrity overnight.
And Hedda Hopper dictated the social standing of Hollywood.
Exactly. And the vulgar girl, Elsa, is Elsa Maxwell, a famous society hostess and gossip columnist who built a career on throwing outrageous, highly publicized parties.
These people monetized gossip. They took the private whispers of high society and broadcast them to the masses.
Which our heroine hates.
And how does she react to merely hearing their names?
She says, I take a bromo seltzer.
A bromo seltzer, a highly popular antacid and headache remedy of the era, which was frequently used as a hangover cure. Just the thought of Walter Winchell's staccato voice gives her acid reflux.
The somatic symptom is the punchline. But Porter immediately turns the dial up even further. He moves from the columnists who report on the culture to the cinema stars who embody it.
This list is just dizzying. When anyone mentions Martha Raye, Carmen Miranda, Lana Turner, Anita Louise, Joan Davis, Betty Hutton, Gregory Randolph, Red Skelton, Moniwoli John Ameki, Jack Oakes, or Cedric Hardwicke.
He covers the entire spectrum of Hollywood's massive reach. You have the frenetic, physical comedy of Red Skelton, Joan Davis, and Betty Hutton.
Right.
You have the dramatic gravitas of Sir Cedric Hardwicke. You have the manufactured, untouchable glamour of Lana Turner. And crucially, you have the explosive, transnational energy of Carmen Miranda.
Carmen Miranda with the towering fruit hats and the incredible rapid-fire Portuguese singing. She is everything this character fears. She is loud, she is foreign, she is unapologetically vibrant.
And Porter delivers the ultimate punchline. When anyone mentions these movie stars, the character says, I have to take an enema.
An enema. The escalation is complete. She treats Carmen Miranda the way someone would treat severe food poisoning.
Yes.
It's a brilliant physicalization of her snobbery. Pop culture is not a matter of taste. It requires aggressive gastrointestinal evacuation.
It's incredible. But historically, what this section proves is the absolute saturation of popular culture as a vast shared language.
Right, because the joke doesn't work otherwise.
Exactly. The audience in 1944 laughed uproariously because they instantly recognized every single name on that list.
They could picture exactly how Betty Hutton's brassy, loud persona would completely decimate this fragile little elf in a single conversation.
The audience's immediate recognition is the very proof of the cultural saturation the character is trying to escape. She's losing the war, and the audience's laughter confirms it.
And she doesn't just run from the movies, she goes after the comic strips next. On Sunday, when the rest of America is reading the funnies.
Which were huge at the time.
Massive. She lists Dick Tracy, Terry and the Pirates, Flash Gordon, Superman, the Gumps, Barney Google, Joe Palooka, Popeye, Lil Abner. And she dismisses them all as menaces.
Menaces. Not just silly, but dangerous.
I get finding them lowbrow, but why menaces? Why are comic strips actually threatening to her?
Because comic strips in the 1930s and 40s were not just disposable entertainment, they were modern myth-making.
Oh, wow.
Superman and Flash Gordon represent a future driven by science, technology, and sheer kinetic power. Characters like Popeye and Lil Abner center the narratives of the working class and the rural poor.
So they are completely bypassing her world.
They bypassed traditional literary gatekeepers entirely and spoke directly to millions of Americans every Sunday.
So what does she read to counteract Superman?
She turns to Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Exodus, or Genesis.
The foundational text of the Old Testament. She swaps out the Sunday funnies for sacred scripture. It is the maximum possible contrast.
Where the comic strips offer a chaotic, democratic, forward-looking mythology, the Bible offers ancient, unyielding, unquestionable law.
This brings us to a fascinating, deeper layer of her avoidance. It's not just the aesthetic noise of Hollywood or the lowbrow nature of comic strips. She is fleeing from a profound ideological shift regarding gender in the 1940s.
This is a major battlefield for her. Literature and gender.
Yes. She takes aim at the literary world, specifically contemporary women novelists. She lists Edna Ferber, Fannie Hurst, Kathleen Norris, and Lillian Smith.
These were widely read, highly influential female authors who often tackled complex, messy social realities. Edna Ferber, for example, wrote sprawling epics about American industry and class struggles.
And the reference to Lillian Smith is particularly pointed. The lyrics explicitly note, her book Strange Fruit has recently been banned in Boston.
Right. And strictly reporting from our source material here, Strange Fruit was a 1944 novel by Lillian Smith that dealt with themes of interracial romance and racism, and it did indeed face censorship and was banned in Boston.
Exactly. Just stating the facts from our sources impartially, the book dealt with heavy, real-world issues and faced bans. What's incredible is that the character in the song drops the fact that it was banned almost as a seal of approval for her own ignorance.
The censorship validates her refusal to engage with it.
Right. So she sweeps away all these modern, socially engaged novelists, and who does she retreat to? She says, give me Jane Austen.
Austen, the beloved English novelist, eternally associated with refined, traditional storytelling, drawing room politics, and the absolute certainty of the social hierarchy.
But wait, Austen was a sharp satirist of her own time. She wasn't just writing fluffy romances.
True, but for our heroine, Austen represents a world where the rules of class and decorum are entirely fixed.
Where everyone knows their place.
Exactly. In Austen's world, social disruptions are eventually resolved by marriage or polite exile. By choosing Austen over Ferber or Smith, our character instantly discards over a century of literary and social evolution.
She trades the messy reality of 1940s America for the ordered safety of 19th century England.
And she performs the exact same erasure with poetry. She lists the moderns: Archibald MacLeish, Edna St. Vincent Millay, Gertrude Stein, Ogden Nash, and Dorothy Parker.
A phenomenal list of innovators.
Truly. You have Dorothy Parker's biting, cynical satire, Gertrude Stein's radical dismantling of prose and poetry syntax, Edna St. Vincent Millay's unapologetic bohemianism. They were actively breaking the rules of form and content.
Even the character admits these modern poets might be wiser and wittier. She concedes their talent.
But she rejects them anyway.
Yes, she demands, give me John Greenleaf Whittier.
Whittier was a 19th century Quaker poet, deeply associated with moralistic, sentimental, and highly traditional rural verse.
The witty, boundary-pushing moderns lose to the sentimental Victorian. It is a deliberate, conscious choice of comfort over intellectual challenge.
Comfort is cute.
But her rejection becomes explicitly personal when she addresses what she calls the womenfolk. She states a fervent desire to avoid spending an evening with those advanced girls.
Advanced girls.
And she names Nancy Astor, Anne Morgan, Helen de Hagen, and Claire Booth Luce.
These aren't just celebrities. These are heavy hitters of global influence.
Immensely so. They embodied modern female power in the public sphere.
Nancy Astor was the first female member of parliament to take her seat in Britain. Anne Morgan was a massive philanthropist who organized huge relief efforts in Europe.
Helen de Hagen was an opera singer and actress who transitioned into a formidable, highly active politician.
And Claire Booth Luce. The character specifically refers to her as that green-eyed leopardess.
Luce was a brilliant playwright, a sharp journalist, a politician, and later a major ambassador. She was fierce, brilliant, and deeply involved in global affairs. Okay, let's unpack this. She is a woman herself, but she is fleeing from the most accomplished women of her era. It's like she views progress as a personal insult to her Victorian upbringing.
This raises an important question, though. Consider what their existence proves. If women like Claire Booth Luce and Nancy Astor can shape global politics and write hit plays, then our heroine's strategy of sitting in a pastel room dusting jades is no longer a marker of elite status.
What is it then?
It's a marker of obsolescence. These advanced girls render her entire Victorian worldview completely irrelevant.
Ah, so they are an actual existential threat to her self-worth. And how does she respond to this threat? She says she would much rather climb some Arcadian hill and dally with a shepherdess.
She literally wants to flee into a mythological pastoral painting. This speaks to how nostalgia often requires erasing the complexities of the present in favor of a simplified, fictionalized past. Nostalgia is an active process of historical erasure here.
So she prefers her women to be fictional, pastoral, and entirely non-threatening.
An imaginary shepherdess on an Arcadian hill will never challenge your intellect or make you feel politically inadequate.
But Claire Booth Luce absolutely will.
Exactly.
So she is curating a reality where she never has to feel outdated. Which brings us to a logistical question. We've seen her retreat in art and literature, but she still physically resides in New York City.
The sprawling modern metropolis.
How does she actually navigate this city without losing her mind?
She survives by creating a strict, physical hierarchy of acceptable institutions. She maps out safe zones, beginning with nightlife and dining.
She sings that when she dines alone, she prefers the Brevoort, the Lafayette, the Murray Hill Hotel, or the Union Club. And she explicitly contrasts these choices by stating she prefers them over dining at the Stork Club.
Let's break down that urban geography because it's important. The Stork Club, situated on East 53rd Street, was the undisputed epicenter of celebrity glamour, gossip, and modern nightlife in the 1940s.
It was where everyone wanted to be.
It was the great equalizer of fame, where movie stars, politicians, athletes, and columnists all collided. It was loud, flashy, and intensely public.
The ultimate see and be seen environment.
Exactly.
Wi-Fi.
Conversely, her preferred venues tell a story of intentional fade and retreat. The Hotel Brevoort and the Hotel Lafayette were located down in Greenwich Village. They possessed a sort of older, bohemian, Francophile charm that felt distinctly 19th century.
What about the Murray Hill Hotel?
The Murray Hill Hotel was a once grand beacon of Victorian luxury that by 1944 had faded into a quiet, slightly dusty relic.
And the Union Club, that's her only club, right?
Yes, the Union Club is the oldest private social club in New York City. It is synonymous with immense old money exclusivity, strict membership rules, and deep conservative tradition.
So by choosing these venues over the Stork Club, she is actively choosing fading institutions and quiet, guarded exclusivity over fashionable excitement and new money.
She applies that same exclusionary tactic to music and high society, too.
Yes, she declares a preference for hearing a string quartet by Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, or Handel, the absolute, unquestioned, monumental titans of canonical classical music,
over listening to Lady Mendel.
Now, who on earth is Lady Mendel, and how does she compete with Beethoven?
Lady Mendel is a fascinating historical figure. Her real name was Elsie de Wolfe. She was an American who essentially invented the modern profession of interior decorating.
Oh, wow.
But more importantly, she was a master of self-invention. She started as an amateur actress, became a highly sought-after decorator for the wealthy, and later in life she married a British diplomat who had been knighted, which allowed her to adopt the title Lady Mendel.
So she bootstrapped her way from the theater to the drawing room to the aristocracy.
Yes. She was flamboyant, sophisticated, deeply involved in international cafe society, and incredibly modern in her social mobility.
And our heroine despises her for it. Even sophistication, if it's new, self-made, and upwardly mobile, is too modern. She prefers composers who have been safely dead for a century.
Because as we established, the dead don't change the rules on you.
The dead are highly predictable, which perfectly sets up my absolute favorite image in the entire song. We get a glimpse of her medical routine in the city.
Oh, the graveyard scene.
Yes. She mentions that she got a sick headache while she was standing in the graveyard of Trinity Church looking at the steeple.
Trinity Church is a profoundly historic Episcopal church located at the intersection of Broadway and Wall Street in Lower Manhattan. It's famous for its old cemetery, which is the final resting place of figures like Alexander Hamilton.
Even a graveyard visit is part of her routine. She's fundamentally more comfortable hanging out with 18th century corpses at Trinity Church than she is with the living at the Stork Club.
It perfectly cements her alignment with old New York and the literal past.
But she gets a headache looking at the steeple. And how does she cure this graveyard migraine? She says she wasn't afraid because she always carries Lydia Pinkham's pink pills for pale people.
This is a spectacular bit of historical product humor by Porter. Lydia Pinkham's vegetable compound was a massively famous, heavily advertised patent medicine originating in the late 19th century.
What was it for?
It was marketed almost exclusively for what they called female complaints: menstrual cramps, menopausal symptoms, general hysteria.
A catch-all tonic for female troubles.
Exactly. Its medical efficacy was, to put it mildly, dubious. But Porter brilliantly conflates it here with the name of another famous patent medicine of the era, Dr. Williams' pink pills for pale people, which was marketed as a cure for anemia.
Oh, I see.
The general public frequently confused the two because of the heavy alliteration and the word pink.
So, in an era where scientists are mass-producing penicillin to fight World War II, she is popping archaic 19th century pseudoscientific patent medicines like breath mints just to survive looking at a church steeple.
Her fragility is comical, but it's also deeply stubborn.
And finally, Porter maps out how she categorizes the print media of the city. We saw her run from the radio columnists, but here she ranks the actual physical publications.
She condemns a massive, diverse swath of popular magazines. She lists Cosmopolitan, The Red Book, The New Yorker, Collier's, McCall's, True Detective, True Love Stories, and True Confessions.
She is covering the entire socioeconomic spectrum of mass market publishing. You have the urbane, highbrow wit of The New Yorker, the middle-class fiction of Collier's, all the way down to the pulp sensationalism of True Detective and True Confessions.
And she dismisses every single one of them as trash infernal.
Why is a pulp detective magazine as threatening to her as the highbrow New Yorker?
Because the booming pulp industry of the 1940s democratized reading. It brought the anxieties, the crimes, and the messy realities of the lower and middle classes into the mainstream. It was cheap, accessible, and thrilling.
And she hates that accessibility.
The democratization of information felt like a direct threat to the curated, elite flow of knowledge she relies on to maintain her superiority.
So what is the only magazine she deems acceptable to read?
The Ladies' Home Journal.
Which is fascinating because that wasn't some elite small batch publication. It was a massive mainstream magazine.
But it emphasized traditional homemaking, strict etiquette, and highly conventional domestic values. She accepts a mass-market publication only because it vigorously reinforces her conservative worldview.
Right. And she applies this exact same filtering mechanism to the daily newspapers. She reveres the Times, the Tribune, and the Sun. These were considered the unshakable bastions of serious, elite, text-heavy journalism.
She notes she will occasionally tolerate the World Telegram, but she demands that someone should forcefully condemn the tabloids.
She lists the News, the Mirror, the Journal-American, the Post, and PM. These were the sensationalist, photo-heavy papers. They were the ones full of the gossip columnists, the lurid crime stories, the comic strips, and the scandalous movie stars that she has spent the entire song fleeing from.
By condemning them, she creates an impenetrable intellectual fortress. She creates a binary reality. If it is printed in the Times, it is real and respectable. If it is printed in the Mirror, it is vulgar, false, and must be eradicated from her presence.
What strikes me most as we unpack all of this is that these references aren't just clever, rhythmic jokes. They act as a flawless, comprehensive snapshot, really historical evidence, of exactly what educated Americans recognized, consumed, argued about, and feared in 1944.
It provides a perfect snapshot of what educated Americans recognized in 1944. It is a perfect cultural time capsule.
It really is.
Beneath the highly entertaining comic novelty of a woman running away from Carmen Miranda to read Deuteronomy, Porter managed to capture the entire landscape of tastes, anxieties, celebrities, and institutions that defined a profoundly pivotal moment in American history.
He understood that every generation experiences this exact friction.
Yes, every generation imagines itself uniquely caught between the comforting warmth of a golden, idealized past and the terrifying, unsettling velocity of the future. The impulse the song mocks remains incredibly familiar today.
The heroine of Dainty, Quainty Me simply makes a definitive choice. She chooses the past, and she defends it with absolute, unwavering, and hilarious devotion.
And Porter transformed that universal, somewhat pathetic impulse of nostalgia into a brilliant piece of satirical art.
He really did. And that is why this song, while so hyper-specific to 1944, remains incredibly resonant today. We all know someone who insists that culture has gone completely downhill, and if we could only revert to the good old days, society would be saved.
We certainly do.
As we wrap up episode 71, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on our sources but expanding outward. Think about the irony of nostalgia. The very thing she clings to as traditional and safe, like Beethoven's symphonies or the Impressionist painters she dismisses as ballonné, were considered wildly revolutionary and shocking in their own times.
That's a great point.
Beethoven shattered the classical forms of his predecessors. Austen revolutionized the novel of manners. Monet's brushstrokes scandalized the 19th century Parisian art establishment. Nostalgia is a moving target.
It absolutely is.
It makes you wonder, what will the dainty quainties of the year 2080 be desperately clinging to as the absolute height of classical refinement? Will they be barricading themselves in a room to watch 21st century superhero movies and carefully scroll through archived early social media platforms, loudly rejecting whatever the art of the future looks like?
That's a funny visual.
Will they look back at our chaotic pop culture as a golden age of peace and quiet? It's a hilarious and slightly terrifying thought.
It certainly forces us to examine our own cultural anxieties and the walls we might be building around ourselves today.
It really does. Well, that brings us to the end of episode 71. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of Porter's comic genius. Remember to check the description right now for the link to grab your copy of the Porter-Pedia book. If you love this kind of historical decoding, you absolutely must buy it.
You'll be obsessed with it.
And definitely click the link to hear the amazing performance of Dainty, Quainty Me. You will also find the full lyrics there. You have to hear it to believe it. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we will see you next time.